for round number 5, can I take you back 1 year to 2018?
You may.
And read a tweet from Lindsey Graham. And this tweet was accompanied by an article that says, Turkey threatens to bury Kurdish forces in Syria amid U.S. withdrawal. And Lindsey Graham said, America's worst nightmare is to have reliable allies like the Kurds who have fought so bravely against ISIS abandoned and destroyed. Anyways, Chaps, what's the latest news?
All right, so last night, or I guess Sunday night, President Trump, his press secretary, issued a statement and said that President Trump had spoke with the president of Turkey by telephone. Turkey will soon be moving forward with its long-planned operation into northern Syria. The United States Armed Forces will not support or be involved in the operation, and the United States forces, having defeated the ISIS territorial caliphate, will no longer be in the immediate area. The United States government has pressed France, Germany, and other European nations, which many captured ISIS fighters came from, to take them back, but they did not want them and refused. The United States will not hold them for what could be many years and a great cost to the United States taxpayer. Turkey will now be responsible for all ISIS fighters in the area captured over the past 2 years in the wake of the defeat of the territorial caliphate by the United States. Now, that might have set off the biggest bipartisan tweet storm that I've seen in President Trump's presidency. Would you guys agree with that?
I would agree, and that it was released at 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night.
Yeah, that's a little telling.
Yeah, not great. That's where you want to brush your news under the rug.
I was still awake, but I didn't happen to see this till this morning.
Oh, I saw Twitter last night as I was nestling into bed. I saw Twitter blowing up over this. And you're right. Both sides of the aisle, left, right, are in agreement that, oh, shit, not great.
All right, so basically what's happening in this area of the world, right on the Syrian border where it borders up against Turkey, is that the Kurds, who have been our partner for a long time, not just in the last 2 years in the fight against ISIS, but the Kurds are who we were primarily partners with as interpreters for us in Iraq. Like whenever we go out and get interpreters' citizenship, many of them are Kurdish. So whenever we have this story that breaks like this, that President Trump wants us to leave this entire area, I'm torn for 2 reasons. One, because I do believe that America can't be the global police forever. But 2, you've got to protect your allies in a way. Like there's no reason to be the biggest military in the world if you're not going to help those who need it. And the Kurds definitely need it, especially when we ask them to really leave themselves vulnerable by taking down all kinds of barriers, the security measures that they had in place at the time. We are not experts on what's going on, but we trust in the experts because we read enough about it to kind of get the picture of what's going on. Essentially, the U.S. leaving by President Trump's decision will put the Kurds in a very, very dangerous spots, because there's been reports that not only does Turkey not like them, but they want to perform a Kurdish genocide. Like they legitimately want to massacre these people. And that's exactly how the Kurds are taking this decision, that we are abandoning them in their biggest time of need.
Yeah, they're afraid Syria is going to sweep into northern Syria and wage a violent campaign against the civilian population. And that just...
I think the most disturbing part to me is the fact that in this article that we've posted, the line that reads, "The move goes against the recommendations of top defense and military officials." President Trump has all of these people who are way smarter than us, way smarter than him even, when it comes to military operations and maintaining relationships with who we need to, who our allies are. So the fact that he listens to everything they say and then just says, yep, I'm just not going to do that, is very disturbing.
But I'm sure there's other people, like this isn't just him deciding. I'm sure there are other forces at play telling him why this is a good idea. And I'm just confused as to why. Like, I know a big part of it was that we've been stuck dealing with the cost and the manpower as others aren't like taking full responsibility. But like,
yeah, no, I'm with Chaps. Like, I'm torn as well because, yeah, I don't want to just be the world police every time, but you don't want to abandon your allies. There has to be a middle ground to where we can remove ourselves in such a manner that we don't create a vacuum and essentially just spit in the face of our allies and say, hey, well, see ya. You guys got this from here. That just doesn't seem to me like it's going to work.
And the United Nations is already, like, everybody knows that it's probably going to be a massacre. The UN already called on Turkey to spare civilians when they sweep through northern Syria, to spare the Kurds. So,
like, how chilling is that? The United Nations has to be like, America made a mistake. We need to make sure that please just don't go in and kill a shit ton of civilians. And the Defense Secretary Mark Esper told reporters the U.S. Turkish militaries were making progress setting up security mechanisms on the border. This is just last week, continuing joint patrols that began just last month. The Kurds have kept their side of the bargain, moving fighters and equipment out of the immediate area and refraining from launching attacks across the border. So it appears that everything, up until last week when the Secretary of Defense was talking about it, that everything was going well. And I believe because Mark Esper is on the record, this is exactly why the State Department and Department of Defense don't do press briefings anymore, because there is no way to predict. The president gets off the phone with the president of Turkey, and there's such a monumental shift in decades long of policy just overnight. How you can't do that. Like, you can't do it.
Yeah, I hope we can find an expert to come on the show. I know, Chaps, you said you were reaching out to a couple people to kind of explain it in the coming weeks or so, because I feel like Charlie Kelly at the cork board trying to keep track of it all sometimes. Like, we did this.
Right.
So, I don't know.
No, but to your point, Kate, you're probably right. There's got to be somebody else in his ear on the other side saying, oh, yeah, this is a good idea. This is what we need to do. I hope and pray that it's not just President Trump making this decision willy-nilly all by himself, especially when you see that he's going against what the top defense and secretary of state, the defense secretary is saying he should do. So,
well, can we look at some tweets real quick? I know you had put some in there, some clips in there.
Yeah, so some of the Syrian Kurdish officials have already reached out to American media by saying the Americans are traitors. They have abandoned us to a Turkish massacre. We can no longer fight against ISIS and have to defend ourselves. This could allow ISIS to return for the region. And it's very rare to see both political sides of the aisle come down on a policy so quickly. I mean, it's almost automatic that anything that President Trump does, Democrats are going to come down on and be like, this is bullshit. We shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's just something that we've come to expect. This feels different because you have leaders on both sides in the House and the Senate who are denouncing the move on Twitter almost immediately, including probably the biggest war hawk in all of Senate, which I hate even giving it credence to Lindsey Graham, because I'm well on the record of saying Lindsey Graham's a fucking idiot. Like, he wants to go to war at all times. Like, anytime there could be war, Lindsey Graham is about it, whether it's North Korea, Iran, or now Syria. Like, he wants to be at war. But normally he sides with President Trump, and he says, I don't know all the details regarding President Trump's decision in northern Syria. In process of setting up a phone call with Secretary Pompeo. If press reports are accurate, this is a disaster in the making, because it, 1, ensures an ISIS comeback, 2, forces Kurds to align with Assad and Iran, 3, destroys Turkey's relationship with the U.S. Congress, and 4, will be a stain on America's honor for abandoning the Kurds. Also, if this plan goes forward, I will introduce a Senate resolution opposing and asking for a reversal of the decision. Expect it will receive strong bipartisan support, which I do too. He later went on to say, the most probable outcome of this impulsive decision is to ensure Iran's domination of Syria. The U.S. now has no leverage, and Syria will eventually become a nightmare for Israel. I feel very bad for American allies who have sacrificed to destroy the U.S. caliphate, because this decision virtually reassures the reemergence of ISIS. It's so sad, so dangerous. President Trump may be tired of fighting radical Islam. They are not tired of fighting us. And finally, this decision makes it difficult for the U.S. to recruit allies against radical Islam. And by abandoning the Kurds, we have sent the most dangerous signal possible. America is an unreliable ally, and it's just a matter of time before we abandon you, too.
Well, who knows? Yeah, and there's a ton of other tweets about it from both sides of the fence saying, I don't know. So interested to see how that develops, but we'll be keeping an eye on it here. Your policy experts at
Well,
ZBT.
I'm not ready to move on, Kate, because there's more. I think there's more shit, because the president goes on to say that we are going to release a lot of these ISIS fighters. I think that's a huge distinction to make, that we're no longer going to keep the ISIS fighters that we've captured, that we're going to release them back into the countries that they came from in Europe. This isn't a small amount of ISIS fighters, and normally we don't like to get too political, but I think this is worth it. If they release these people, do you have any idea how many there are? 60,000 ISIS fighters.
But that's saying, a significant amount. At the same time, he's saying these countries aren't taking responsibility for them. So what, are we supposed to, is that on us?
Yeah, well, yeah, but we would essentially open the gate. Like, the UN is responsible for all these different places right now. But if we released all these 60,000 ISIS fighters, they didn't become de-radicalized by sitting in one of our
Yeah, they're not all set now. Like, oh, okay, I don't believe in what ISIS believes anymore, so they're just going to go on their merry way. No, they're just going to be released back into the battlefield and start coming after people again.
Ah, quagmires.
And this myth that ISIS has been defeated is fucking bullshit. I mean, anybody who reads normally on foreign policy knows that ISIS is still strong. Are they as strong, and do they have a state? No, but they're still very, very strong, and they're still a foe for sure.